Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
In this week's sort of exploration series, I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges we face when dealing with the Masonic tools in general. And we're going to start actually with the Three Ruffians. It's the kind of the easy and obvious place to start considering where we are internally most likely to self-sabotage. For those of you that are unfamiliar, or may have forgotten since your ritual, the Three Ruffians are in the Hiramic legend. They are craftsmen who are afraid that they're not going to essentially merit the wages for their labor, which is the secret word and sign of a Master Mason. And so they decide to try and beat it out of Hiram, with the net result being Hiram dying. This understanding of the conversation is kind of like the sort of material what happened. But when we start talking about what that really means for us as people trying to grow and develop, the conversation gets a lot more interesting. So each of the Three Ruffians represent essentially, or can represent, some concrete ideas about the things that we all face. You'll have heard in previous episodes of the show where we talk about that we represent one of the 12 craftsmen who recanted, one of the people that kind of became aware of their sort of subversive internal natures and decided to become a better person. We're in that phase now. And when we talk about that, we have to understand what we're sort of fighting. So the ruffians symbolically can be considered in a lot of ways. And so I'm not going to try and get into a historical analysis here. What I do want to point out, though, is that if you use a kind of a modern psychological interpretation, these can be representative of sort of cognitive functions, right? So what do I mean by that? If each of the Three Ruffians represents a negative emotion or a negative sort of worldview, you might find that that's a productive way for you to essentially start doing some internal work. So we'll kind of just put some examples out there, and we'll talk about these more in further episodes this week. But each of the ruffians might represent fear, uncertainty, and doubt. As to which is which, it's kind of doesn't matter. If you just understand that these are the three things that will detract from your agency as an individual, or potentially paralyze you and limit your ability to think and feel and express yourself, you'll get sort of the major heavy lifting that these symbols are able to provide. So look at the ideas of these ruffians. Or, even more simply, if you're concerned that you may not remember the ritual very well, look at the bad guys in the movies. Each bad guy in a movie can represent essentially a function of your own psychology that you are maybe letting drive the bus too much. So when fear drives the bus too much, for example, you tend to clamp down and do things. And so you look at the bad guys in the movies that have done that became, awful people, or, killed a bunch of children in the Jedi Temple. This is, again, unchecked fear and a desire to try and control everything. So all of this kind of stuff is really useful for us to help us grow. So use these symbols to do that, and I think you'll find there's just a ton of instruction available to you. In subsequent episodes this week, again, we'll go over each of those villains that drive the bus occasionally, and how we might spot them so that they don't interfere with your everyday life. Come back tomorrow and find out more.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.